is promoting MCP as a new way for apps, tools, and AI models to communicate. But WooCommerce product builders, what do you do with that? What doors does this open? Is this ready for real world use? What does it take to make a Woo product MCP aware? And is the hype worth the investment right now? These questions will be answered on this episode of WP Product Talk.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zach Katz from Gravity Kit.
And I'm Ian Meisner from Kestrel.
And before we get started, a huge thanks to Freemius for sponsoring WP Product Talk. If you don't know, Freemius takes care of everything from licensing and payments to tax compliance, so you can focus on building products that people love.
And don't forget, if you're watching live right now, hit subscribe. Literally stop right now, hit the button. It helps us reach more WordPress builders and makes the show strong. Thank you.
Yeah. And today we're joined by Nik McLaughlin from SkyVerge, who's been digging deep into WooCommerce MCP, prototyping real integrations, and trying to figure out if it's worth the investment for product teams. Nik, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know you yet, Nik, can you tell us a little bit about your background, what you've been working on?
Yeah. So Zach mentioned I'm over on the SkyVerge team at GoDaddy. So I've been there for about 5 years, came along about the same time that we got acquired. So that's been, all the big journey things there. I've been working with Woo and WordPress for about 10 years. And then really started in kind of getting deeper into it with SkyVerge on the support side, and have since kind of bounced roles, done some engineering stuff, done some product stuff, and am now kind of taking the lead on product direction and strategy for the brand.
That's really cool. And for those who are watching live, please throw your questions into the chat, and we will pull some in as we go. There, I'm sure, are going to be a lot of questions, I think, around MCP, because the first question that people might ask is, Nik, what's an MCP? What is MCP?
What is it? Yeah. What is this new acronym? Yeah. I mean, it's fair. Like MCP, a lot of the work in MCP has really happened in the last 4 or 5 months, really, as far as like actually getting things out there. So it's definitely something new to figure out. So high level, like the M, the C, the P is model context protocol. So it's like really roughly like a way for LLMs to actually do things, to interact with applications that are like external to the chatbot itself, right? So you have your chatbot that can talk and make up answers and lie to you. MCP is like the way to connect that to external tools. That's like this open standard protocol. So being a protocol, like folks working in web space are familiar with like HTTP, being the way that the web works. It's like that, but for AI and apps. The HTTP dynamic is like browser or like server and client, right? And you have the exact same dynamic with MCP, where you're setting up MCP servers that serve to an LLM, which is acting as part of an MCP client. So it's a really similar relationship to that. You can think of it kind of in the same way the mental model sort of holds up. So that's sort of the baseline intro to MCP. Can get more into like, the exciting stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's when you're using an LLM, let's just say AI, because like that's what everybody says. So
Yeah.
when you're using AI to use and you're connecting it to an MCP, what does that allow? Like what functionality does that allow you to do? Like how is that different from just saying, or what would you even say to an MCP that's connected to WooCommerce?
Yeah. So the magic is really that you're not leaving the chat interface. That like for the user on the client side, you really are just talking, and it just kind of sometimes too magically gives your chatbot superpowers behind the scenes, right? But it allows you to ask about in natural language about things that that only that service would know about. So ChatGPT doesn't know about your sales last month, but if you hook up a WooCommerce MCP, it can generate really complicated reports for you that you didn't have to learn SQL for. You can just type the words in like you would talking to a business partner or something, right? You can ask the question as it occurs to you, and it'll kind of piece together and figure out what tools to use. And then that's where MCP comes in, is like teaching it what tools are available, and then handling in a more deterministic way, like once it decides to use those tools, what happens. There's like an API call basically that happens on the server side that the LLM says, hey, I want to use this tool. And then whoever made that server controls what the code does at that point. Yeah.
And just to make sure we have definitions for the different terms, can you explain what a tool is?
Yeah, right. Yes, that is like jargon now, unfortunately. They took some simple words here. Yeah, I mean, the tool is the functionality, I guess, that's exposed to the LLM specifically. So MCP can broadly be broken down as far as like the things that exist on the server side that the LLM can see, that the AI can see, are like tools and resources. Resources is more of like a static document for reference. A tool is like has a certain schema that the LLM knows how to use it to actually do things. So that can be performing actions, like in a WooCommerce context, performing actual actions on your site, like product updating or inventory levels, changing inventory levels or something like that. Or it can be like more of a read of, getting historical sales data and stuff like that.
Can I try to translate this into dumb guy for a second, and you tell me?
Yes,
if it's,
yeah, I keep trying. Yeah,
very simple on my end, and tell me if this is wrong or overly simplistic. Sure. Basically, Claude's a really smart dude, and the MCP server is a book he can read to teach him how to do a thing, and he just never puts it down once you give it to him. Basically,
yeah.
Dumb
yeah,
guy
for better
stuff,
or worse, he doesn't
basically.
put it down. Yeah.
yeah. The he doesn't put it down part is actually important, actually.
Yeah.
But that's,
it turns out.
We can get into that later, I guess, right?
Yeah. I'd say it's like the book he can read, and it also like there's an action there too, right? Like it's a how to do things. Yeah.
So, as an old person in web dev terms, there's an application concept called CRUD application, where you create, you read, update, and delete information. So in WooCommerce, you have products, you have orders, you have customers. Those are each objects that I imagine, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, the WooCommerce MCP will be able to read a product, create a product, update a product, or delete a product. You probably don't want to enable that in your MCP. But like those are some of the functionalities for each of the objects on your website that an MCP can interact with once you enable that by connecting it to your AI.
Yeah. So the MCP like server side, as far as like what the LLM has access to, or I guess like the other side of what the LLM has access to, is an API, right? Like you're setting up an API that serves to that server or connects to that server and saying, okay, when the LLM tries to use this tool, call this function. So that's basically like your CRUD. That can be your CRUD API layer there. The magic of the MCP is that then somebody doesn't have to know what your tool is. They don't have to write code to call it. They can just like type like they do to Claude all the time, and it just kind of takes care of it.
Yeah. So what does this allow product owners to do? Like now, so there's an MCP for WooCommerce. Great. How does this unlock for our listeners, like something for product owners to build, or like how can they take advantage of this MCP technology?
Yeah. So I think the most available is like, if we're extending WooCommerce or even like at the WordPress level, the abilities API is kind of where this integration of like WordPress and MCP kind of comes together. So getting started on integrating with Abilities API, exposing your existing product functionality to that is kind of a quick unlock just to make your things work. It's how you kind of continue the sort of plugin extension model of WordPress and Woo into the AI context, the MCP context. Sorry, context is maybe a loaded word there, but we're trying. We can't say tool, we can't say context. Like
they're taking all our words, man.
Yeah.
But the thing I was hoping to dig into from your explanation, like I get it, but can you maybe give an example, like using like maybe a SkyVerge product, like what are you actually going to do? You know, like a real world pick a product.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like the two
doesn't have to be a roadmap, but you know.
Sure. Yeah. It's like I can get into the roadmap if you want me to. I think the two the two big areas in Woo that this comes in are it's kind of two-faced. There's agentic commerce, which is more like customer facing. The customer doesn't have to visit the website to purchase a product. That's going to be less of a thing or less of a concern at the maybe like extension and product level, because Woo is going to handle a lot of that. It's kind of the already Woo facing side, but we can talk more about how maybe edge cases and room for opportunity there. The other side is more like store management, is like the WP admin is, you know, this whole bespoke UI that you have to learn how to navigate to turn things on and off and to create reports and view different things. So I like the MCP magic to sprinkle on top of that is that you no longer have to learn your way around there. So, I mean, some of the specific examples, like I remember James Kemp shared some early examples of Woo MCP being, you know, a chatbot that you can ask really complicated questions about your store, and saying like, hey, how many customers have bought more than 5 of this product in the last 3 months? You know, something that would be really hard to piece together all of those little pieces, even in a UI that was designed for it. And you can just type those words and it will spit out an answer. There's also room for UI improvements here. So this is like a lot of the future room for MCP growth, I think, is for oh, James.
James has entered the chat. Watch out, everybody.
You're good. Future room for MCP growth is on the client side. And I think getting more than text in those responses and being able to see a chart, click a button, have it be interactive in smaller ways that really make sense still in the chat flow. But I think that's where a lot of the opportunity for product people come in. Sorry to finally get to the point. That how we present the information there that we're connecting in, that folks are connecting into WooCommerce to find out, is going to take some figuring out at this point. It's really a new paradigm, a new interaction interface.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that we've been doing at Gravity Kit, we released a Gravity Forms MCP, or an MCP for Gravity Forms, that is. Because it's a lot easier to describe the form you want than it is to click into each field and add it to your form and configure whether or not it's required, and then set up an address field and say whether it's US or international, and just say like, I want a contact form, but people can buy, I don't know, socks. And it'll create a form for you. And then you can say, you know, populate that form with sample entries, and then it will create a sample entries. So MCPs unlock a lot of shortcuts for UI. How does that translate to something? And Nick, I know you said that you don't have the answer to this because it's like a new tool set, but like, Ian, what do you think, like in terms of product opportunities that MCPs unlock with this new tool set?
Well, yeah, if you're asking me, I'll start with a little bit of context that I was a pretty strong AI skeptic still, like 3 weeks ago. So over the holidays, I dug in a little bit, and I'm all in, man. I'm going to give Anthropic all my money the second I do, actually.
Are you an AI Grinch whose heart grew multiple sizes over the holidays?
Yeah, basically. I actually, as far as like what I think we can do with it is I'm already using it a great deal in a lot of our support flows. So, we've started using, in the company itself, creating tools that are actually investigating the issue, but it's literally like it's reading the support conversation. It's checking the functionality the product should have. It's then using my local site to go create products, configure testing, and like tell me what's wrong. Obviously, I'm going to do it myself still for now, but I think there's opportunity here for us to enable the functionality in the plugin to make it so it's even more effective. And we haven't opened that up yet. Haven't even started yet.
So here's the thing, though, for MCPs for me. When I get to the point of enough complexity, I say to myself, I personally, as a developer, as a product owner, I don't want just a query that people use natural language for as the product interface. Ideally, or for Ian, for your example, if I have a support dashboard and I have recurring questions about support quality or revenue or business questions, I just have Claude write a dashboard for me rather than having the MCP have to do all the queries and build all the context and generate the report. It's a lot slower than actually just writing some code and having it do it. So Nick, what is MCP good for if that's what I'm seeing?
Yeah, no, this is like one of the key problems with MCP so far is that it's a developer tool, but it's not. It should
Right.
Like all of the MCP clients and the way that you have to set them up and everything is all very like dev centric right now. Like I think Google rolled out MCP support for Gemini in December, and it was only through CLI. Same deal with OpenAI. They added it to ChatGPT, but you have to enable developer mode, right? And this is not who benefits from MCP. Like developers like yourself can look at a problem and say, well, I don't want to have to ask about it.
I write code for that.
Yeah, I've been writing the code for that. I built that API. I don't need to send it to anybody. I think there's a lot that developers can benefit from here. Like we do a lot of things other than sit in Claude Code all day. So like there are other things we need to do that we would be nice if those had an MCP server. The real magic is more outside of that. Like is that the MCP doesn't. Is it just an API? Is it just another thing I have to expose code for? Is like it's an API, but it's for your customers. It's for your users. It's for the end user to be able to interact with no onboarding to whatever system you're exposing to them. So the real limitations there are exactly what I said, like that on the client side, like the MCP clients aren't really there at a consumer level right now. Right. I think there's good developments happening anyways, but the biggest thing will be like landing MCP clients for where regular users can use them, and that's the biggest unlock. So it's helpful to kind of form your opinions now, but with that in mind, that like the point of this thing is to get it in front of normal people who want to buy something from your store or read the WP admin who are a store owner. Like I think it's actually a really powerful use case for WooCommerce, because we have this problem for ages that like we have this powerful open source free tool that is just like hard for somebody who knows how to sell shoes to navigate, or knows how to make pizza to navigate. Like they don't want to have to, there's the onboarding curve, right? But just being able to ask a dumb question and get an answer from it is sort of what this enables in a more informed way than just hoping that ChatGPT makes up the right thing for you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Instead of relying on AI to know these things, when you ask AI a question that it doesn't actually have the answer to, like live data from my website, it needs to figure it out somehow, and it will just make it up if it can't figure it out. So giving it access to your actual data through an MCP allows it to actually run queries on the live data. We have some questions coming in from the chat, which is great. Keep them coming. First, I wanted to bring up a comment rather than a question from James C. Kemp, who is the head of WooCommerce Core. Sorry, James, if I got your title wrong. I see MCP as being most useful in chat contexts where it's natural language and context aware of you. Mm-hmm. And I've found that to be the case as well. Yeah, context aware, parentheses, of you.
I will say the parentheses here is actually the really, really important bit. And I think that's very similar to what I was thinking when, Nick, you were explaining it. In addition to MCP, you have like the concept of skills, and you can write your own instructions. And, Zach, to what you were saying, where it'll make things up. you can teach it not to, but you can also tell it where to find things and what skills to use, and it'll remember it going forward for you. And it's when it starts combining things that you care about that the whole machine starts to feel like it's doing magic. First of all, like, I'm bad at Google Analytics, but I'm pointing it at the Google Analytics MCP and the WooCommerce MCP, and I'm learning things that I should have known like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's the combination of the things you care about, that, and not having to actually know how to solve it, not having to write the code. It has that for you. There's something there for sure.
Yeah, on the technical level, like, that's the magic of the open standard protocol, right? Is like, you no longer have to have bespoke integrations or interactions with particular services. The chat client is the one, like the LLM is the one deciding like what tools to call, and can string those together among whatever's available to it. So you can be writing a blog post, and if you have an MCP server that can tell you about the weather and geolocate someplace and read Google Maps reviews or something like that, it can piece together like a travel blog for you in a way that those services were never designed to do. Like, whoever exposed the weather MCP wasn't like, oh, I sure hope people are going to write blog posts with this. But you can piece those things together, or through MCP, like, those things can be strung together in a way that makes for like novel use cases or like emergent use cases even.
There's specifically, again, like I said earlier, I started playing with this properly over the holidays, and I was very nervous to connect to Google Drive. Just like, it's read-only access, and I really didn't want to do it. But the second I did, like, everything got 10 times better, because it knows everything that I know now. And now when I'm asking a question, it's doing a better job than I am. I don't know, man. It's so it's as you connect all these pieces, you string it all together. It's greater than the sum of its parts. So the WooCommerce MCP on its own is only part of it, I would say, right? So
this is related a bit to a question that Matt asks. Matt asks, would this allow the AI to interact with multiple plugins at once? For example, combining data from WooCommerce core sales and GiveWP sales into one report if they both expose data via the Abilities API? Yes, absolutely. That's part of what Ian was just talking about. I've been building out dashboards on my own computer, like locally, and I'm currently trying to figure out a way to have it hosted so the whole team can use it. That requires a Help Scout MCP. I have an operations dashboard that I built out using Claude Code, of course, a QuickBooks MCP, and an EDD MCP. I forget. I've been doing a lot of MCP. Oh, Drip. Like, we use drip.com for our email marketing. We're actually going to move from Drip to a Fluent CRM. And I wrote the Drip MCP in order to make that possible, because Fluent CRM has an MCP. So I'm going to slurp in from Drip, have it push to Fluent CRM, and have everything synced up. That's possible because of the MCPs. I could have already also written a program, but I don't know. MCPs seem more flexible than that.
Yeah, and that was my point earlier too about like, it not necessarily being for developers, but there are definitely things that everybody can use to leverage it. You don't want to have to always be the developer for all of your own integrations, and you don't have to now.
So how does this make people money, Nick? Like, where's the money?
Yeah, I mean, So like, I think the like agentic commerce use cases are really interesting. That's probably not really what you're asking, because like,
no, I mean, I think. Do you know about the Stripe OpenAI like collaboration? I think it probably is worth talking about as an example of what's possible, but also maybe where we aren't going to get access to that kind of integration.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to like spell it out more. I guess like the high level there is like, the idea being that folks using OpenAI, using ChatGPT, can complete transactions, can like find products, shop, have their whole shopping experience be managed by their LLM agent, right? So they don't have to click through a site. They don't have to look for the right site to shop on. They just say what they want. It finds things. It handles the transaction for you, asks any questions about product variations or customizations or whatever that the server tells it to ask. But all of that can happen within the chat interface. I think for like a store owner who was maybe like upset that they had to build a website in the first place, which is maybe something we forget being in the Woo space. The merchants a lot of times see that as a cost and a liability, and being able to sell more like directly to where customers are at is a boon. I think my first reaction to something like that was like, oh no, what about my website traffic? But I'm like, but I think a merchant doesn't, I don't know. There are lots of reasons that I think there A, will still be websites, and B, should still be websites. But I think there's a lot of a benefit there from being able to, process those transactions in a more direct way.
Yeah, I do have two thoughts on that though. So number one, I do view like, again, if you can go to ChatGPT and ask it to tell you something and it'll do it, that's amazing. And I love it. But also there is like, I don't know how different that really is than like a product feed into Google or, syncing with eBay or the Walmart marketplace and all that. I think it's just one more channel among many, and you still need a home base. I do think, though, I would love to explore a little bit on like, where do we all make money on this sort of deal? It's the I just want to throw out the idea that maybe WordPress is uniquely well suited to be a home base for a lot of this new stuff coming out. It's sort of the open source nature of it, the MCP being an open protocol. The biggest benefit of it is as you connect all these various parts, how it feels like magic. And I think there's some sort of like, I mean, I haven't done much with it with our products yet. I don't know if anyone has really dove deep into exposing a lot to customers, but isn't there a point where if like every third-party developer is exposing skills and abilities that like, I don't know, it's like what, I don't know. I don't have a formed question at the end of this. You see where I'm going?
I think the uptake at the end of that is that like it explodes WooCommerce adoption. It explodes WordPress usage, right? Like having this whole ecosystem that can already do all these really bespoke, specific, magical things, and then just like giving it a better. Sorry, everybody who's spent 20 years working on this thing, but like giving a natural language wrapper around it, describe it instead of valuing it, just opens that up to a lot of people, and enables like these emergent use cases that lets more people see the value of the thing that's already there. To me, that's like the big thing as a product owner is like this allows more people to get value that I was already building, that's just like hidden behind these bespoke UIs and forms and settings and things like that. It just makes the onboarding process that much easier. The time to value is that much faster.
I think that's a great point about settings. For those of you who aren't using Cloudflare, just use Cloudflare. It's so good. Part of what they do really well is the settings search that they have. It makes it easy. And this wasn't the case a couple of years ago. It was hard to find settings, but like they've added a really good settings search that allows exposing all their functionality via universal search. Same with PostHog. PostHog is a great search that goes across all the different types of settings and reports that they have. One of the things that's hard for our customers at GravityKit, there are a lot of things you can configure, and it's hard to know where to do it and how to do it. So I think that a settings MCP that exposes all the different settings and describes what they are for, and like that is something that is worthwhile. Like from a UI perspective, having a settings functionality exposed might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So what is the future of MCP? Like, let's say 2 to 3 years from now, James Kemp apparently still exists as head of WooCommerce.
Oh, no.
James said, "Don't you dare say anything bad. I have to razz him. He's too nice a guy to not get razzed occasionally." So 2 to 3 years of James being like pushing the envelope on what MCP can do. What does that look like for WooCommerce? What does that look like for people selling online? In the WordPress world, what do y'all think? Like, put on your prediction hats.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I look at mostly at like the pieces that we know of, right, which are like the agentic commerce, just like totally changing how, or at least providing, like Ian said, like a new channel for how people can purchase from your store that you didn't have to build an integration for, right? Like that Woo exposes MCP and they can now buy products from your store. I don't know, like in a 3-year time span, I think that's becoming more realistic because more people are using MCP clients. Like I don't think they'll be clicking the MCP client app button on there. It'll appear in places that they already are, either the browser or the chat app or whatever. But I think more and more people will be having using those kinds of experiences. To me, that's the 3-year thing, is more like the adoption of how common that becomes. It's more like, the mobile revolution of like the 2010s of like, oh, well, people really shop from their phones. I don't know. That seems like something you'd want to do at a desktop. And then like, that behavior changes in a couple of years. And then now that's where a lot comes from, right? So I don't know if there's more like new pieces coming. Sure, let's get real crystal ball about it and dream up something together. But I think the biggest thing is looking at the pieces that are set, because they're getting a lot of buy-in right now, and then just saying, okay, when that becomes the normal way that things operate, from a product perspective, like what opportunities are there for my product to grow in that space, or to deliver on this new interaction model in a way that's really like optimized for it, that actually like helps merchants, helps customers find what they need, all the same problems that we're solving, just through a new interface.
Yeah, I do have this actually was a conversation we had on a recent episode about, blocks adoption and all that, right? Sort of like the effort to reward ratio. What are your thoughts on like, how easy is it to start, incorporating abilities into your various products, and knowing the adoption isn't quite 3 years, I'm sure it is everywhere, it's just for a few people right now, right? What's the risk versus reward, and how do you feel about that?
I think the baseline risk is very low. I was able to prototype memberships API or abilities API MCP integration in a couple hours. Myself.
If you have a REST API already, even it's one prompt away from in Cloud Code, it really is.
Really, yeah, you can do it in less. Yeah, I say a couple hours because I was like being picky and being nerdy about like how it all worked. If you don't want to get into that, you just want to be able to chat to your plugin, like it's very close. Like, so the risk there is super low, I'd say, or the investment from a base level is super low.
And this is a very basic question, but I haven't explored the Woo MCP so much more than just installing it and using it. But if I'm just, is it aware of, product meta and orders, do you need to do anything for it to start helping?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Hooking up the MCP is the thing that you do, and then it has what it needs. There are like some limitations on that, and I also haven't like tried to push it. This is where we like adoption will push these things forward a lot more. Because right now it's like developers who have their specific use case that they want to build toward in mind. But people who are just trying to use a site having access to this will flesh that out a lot more. But it basically set it up and it has your stuff, has your site loaded in.
Right. So in terms of where I see MCP in a couple of years, either it's going to be everywhere or it's going to go away. Because one of the things that we've already talked about, one of the limitations of it is that it's very developer focused. You have to install it currently. You have to configure it with your environment variables, possibly depending on how complicated it is. There is a way that you can single click and have it open in Cloud Code automatically, or not in Cloud Code, in Cloud Desktop automatically configured. If you add a button to your website that has that structure, I don't think it's consumer facing. And I don't think it's going to be consumer facing unless we make it consumer facing by doing things like, and Nick, tell me if I'm way off base, but sure. I don't know the WooCommerce world as well as both of you. Dynamic creation of products. Could you do it so that if somebody says, I want a hat that has Bugs Bunny riding a surfboard, and have it initialed with my first and last name, and have it be a black hat with gold stitching, and have the MCP dynamically create that if you have a hat store? Or is that something that
I genuinely think you can do that, and honestly, the Printful API probably supports sending. Like, I think you could literally not even go make the product; you could fulfill it.
Yeah, so then the customer would say that it would go to your MCP, or like it would go to your website. The MCP would figure out, like, okay, I need to create a product. Then you have the API connect to Printful, figure it out, come back, like create the product dynamically for this single person. I don't know, like that kind of example might be more possible in the future. But AI is already getting so good with web searches and like tool connections and stuff like that. My honest answer is I don't think MCP is going to be a big deal in a few years from now, because there are going to be so many different ways to connect, and because it's not it's going to be around for developers. I think the consumer facing stuff is going to be more fetch and less like the MCP. Like, I don't think that MCP is necessary for getting the data. I think it's really good for the CRUD part.
Well, yeah, I mean, the CRUD part is what is the layer before the MCP, though, right? And that's the part that you have to build, whether it's you're doing bespoke tool calls or an open protocol. So my bet on MCP is the fact that they're building the standard. And
you've got to have CRUD no matter what you do. If you have an application, like if you have a WordPress product, it's likely that you have create, read, update, delete. So
we're still getting data out of the application. Like MCP doesn't rewrite or delete your Woo database or something, right? It's not a replacement for that. It's adding the layer onto that. So I like MCP adoption is like a weird thing to talk about for that reason, that it's like it's not. I don't know. It's not building something new. It's exposing it in a new way, right? So that's where I see so much investment there that I think it'll stick around. But we can at this point in history, we can both still say that and be right.
And I will point out, just again, my experience over the last couple of weeks really diving into this. I do think pretty confidently that using Claude skills, you could probably give it the API calls and be more deliberate about it, and probably save money on tokens, right? Like you could probably be really precise, and MCP loads a lot into context. The more servers you add, the more is sitting there and the more in each call. But I mean the cost is so low compared to just going to do that yourself. It's like the cost of the time versus the context is so dramatically different. So I agree with Zach that I think that there's a point at which it's not necessary to have all these sort of declarative translation layers at all. I think that probably is an eventual thing, but that does, at least for me right now, still feel a bit science fiction-y. Whereas right now we got magic. Let's use what's here. That's the way I feel about it. Right?
And you point out a really good point about MCPs, is that MCPs, all the tools, like if you expose everything in your application, all the tool definitions get loaded into context, which means that your conversation can't last as long without it compacting or going away, which is really annoying. And it's one of the problems that has to be solved in WordPress as well. My friend Daniel Iser has configured a Fluent Boards integration and also some other Fluent CRM stuff on his website. And he said when he loaded all the MCPs, he didn't have any space to do anything. Like the tool definitions themselves were larger than the context window, which made the MCP useless. So I do think that there needs to be a kind of proxy for the MCP, like one entry point, and then have an AI figure out which MCP calls to use and stuff like that. And I think that we're going to get there in WordPress, but it's not going to be for a little while.
That's gets into the limitation side. And I think right now, the biggest MCP critics I see are the ones running into those limitations, which to get to the where does this go in 5 years thing, that doesn't seem like a threat to MCP's existence for me. That's a reassurance that we're trying to solve the right problems and having to make it better and figure out how to do that right. So we're already seeing things like agents that will be your tool search agent that live on your MCP server. So that connects to this, and then it can expose those tools dynamically as needed, rather than having it all just sit in context the whole time. Which there's technical solutions around that stuff, for sure.
Yeah, and I've been looking into this a lot because of the project that I was talking about with having a dashboard for my whole team. And there are tools. Docker makes one that has like a Docker container that's job is to receive the query and then figure out which MCPs to use and return it. So like there are tools out there, and then I was going to host that on a server and then have everybody connect to that as the primary MCP and have all the configurations for our entire team to connect to Help Scout, to connect to our website, all that stuff. They don't have to configure it. They only have to configure that one MCP for that endpoint. So there's a lot to learn from like setting up the MCP itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I try to draw back to like the product level image of like what this unlocks.
Yeah.
Because the weeds, the technical has been most of the story so far. And I think the promise of MCP isn't so much in being the best tool to build an integration to your app. It's like being the standard that all chat apps can integrate with all tools. That's like what it's trying to deliver, and that's more of an ecosystem promise than a specific like technical one. Obviously, it's a piece of technology. Like I'm not waving hands that much over like don't worry about the code. Like it's technology, but like it's more about providing that standard baseline that everything can interact on. It's the reason that, like, to use the HTTP example, it's the reason that we don't have to build a website that we don't well, there's a little CSS problems here, but we don't have to build a website for Chrome and a website for Safari and a website for each company's client, right? And we don't have to apply for our site to be published on their client and all that. We have protocols and systems that expose all of that globally, openly, right? MCP is building that at the application level. So again, like yes, there are important things about how that works technically. Like that, like there are technical realities to HTTP that need to work every single day and at scale. But I think the vision here is more at the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out there, like, even if MCP does have any problem of like context windows, whatever, the context windows are only going to get bigger. Apparently there is some amount of diminishing returns there, but it gets cheaper, if not bigger, at least, right? So that problem will solve itself. And I think that the magic part, you expose all of these things, like all of our companies have like this heap of untouched data that we create through day-to-day work all the time. And like, it allows you to just use all of that. It becomes a resource rather than like, just a backlog of, you're paying pennies on the dollar to keep everything so it's there. All of that becomes relevant and useful. And I do want to throw in just one quick example is as Zach, you were talking about, using the Help Scout MCP. That is something I found incredibly valuable as far as a lot of my experimentation was actually around support stuff. It's an area I'm very familiar and comfortable with. But like the fact that it can help test things automatically and all that, we have an API manager product, and we could very easily add an ability for just, getting your current customers' licenses and eliminate the need for things like license checks when people email from different support addresses and all that. I got to start doing more, I guess is really what I'm saying.
And you'll have to actually release the license manager as well.
But yeah, we got it out there. It's quietly chugging along. It's
all right. Well, for those of you who use Easy Digital Downloads, I don't know. I've been pestering them to release their Kestrel to release their
So I will throw out there, the effort of migration is the big obstacle with that, of course. And we even have a product using Easy Digital Downloads.
If only you had an MCP that allowed
it could handle that.
Yeah,
actually, that could be a fun little side project.
Yeah.
Is that? I actually am worried that could work. Actually,
I think it would work. So that's the problem. So MCPs, the reason we released the Gravity Forms MCP or the MCP for Gravity Forms is because we knew that eventually somebody was going to do it, and we might as well do it. And it unlocks some really cool functionality, even though technically, if somebody pointed like we have a product called Gravity Import that imports CSVs into Gravity Forms, and it does a great job. There are a lot of edge cases. It's not an easy problem, it turns out. But now that we have the MCP for Gravity Forms, people can point their CSV to the like their LLM to the CSV, say use this MCP and import the products and figure it out. And I think that would work really well. So I do think MCPs have the ability to really tear down some barriers of entry that will make some of our products less relevant, and will probably sunset some of our products. But I think that's coming anyway. So like the products that are going to get killed from MCP integrations are probably going on the chopping block anyway. And we really ought to focus on the ones that have more of a moat.
No, and I'll say bluntly, I'm fine with that. A lot of our like really small, simple stuff, like we got 50 plugins and like 20 of them do one thing. You know what I mean? Like they're and people need them and they're useful. But honestly, I don't think you need, 67 plugins on every WooCommerce store. And I think that's okay, basically, right? I think that's not a problem. Now, obviously, please buy the expensive ones to replace that. I'd really appreciate it. But in the meantime, though, like I'm not concerned that, things get easier and the platform gets, better. Like, great, let's do that, basically.
Yeah.
I am just thinking more and more, though, and I hadn't even thought about this. So thank you, Zach. You give it the schema that it's coming from and the schema you're sending it to, it'll do all the work. And I'm like 99% sure you don't have to worry about that. That throws in a question that, again, back to 3 weeks ago, being more of a skeptic around this stuff. One of the things that I said to Nick, actually, prior to asking him to come on here was, why would we want to introduce the uncertainty of an LLM for things like data management or a migration? Is that even a valid question? Might be my real question,
Kind of no, right? Like you are exposing, like that's the surface that you're exposing your app's interactivity or your app's functionality to, right? Is this chaotic prediction machine, right? Like determinist or whatever. Anyways, but like you're writing the API, you're writing the tool schema, and you're controlling what it has access to do and how that gets done. So I mean, I guess like the analogy as far as like where the chaos lives is at the user level still, right? Like it's still like somebody could fill out your form wrong, somebody could click the wrong settings button. That's the same way. That's the same thing that can happen now. They just maybe can chat to a bot that does that.
One of the things that I've been doing is writing docs locally and then using an MCP to push them to the Help Scout docs website. We're actually moving our docs from Help Scout to our WordPress site because we think that WordPress is the right place for all this content to live in the AI future. So like that, this is all connected, right? Somehow the MCP deleted all the categories in my docs. So thankfully they were able to recreate them. The Help Scout support team was able to restore a backup essentially. I had also backed up everything using like markdown files. I'd scraped the entire site already using an MCP as like markdown, but it did randomly delete some stuff that it shouldn't have. So that is a warning. Do not enable delete on your MCP unless you absolutely know that that's the case. And I would recommend requiring an environment variable for the delete functionality. Like have some safeguards on the delete. Delete the delete is what I would say.
I think for now, yes. Like I think like find a different way to clean it up. Write a script if you have to that you have to run manually or something. Like for now, for sure. As we get there further, always requiring permission to do something destructive like that. But we all live in the gray spaces enough to know that like what a destructive action is not always clear in every case. But I think safeguards like that are going to be pretty key.
Yeah, I do want to throw it though. So one of the reasons I really started playing with Cloud over the holidays was that everyone was hyping up skills on Twitter and the fact that it solves a lot of the context issues. If it does something you don't like once, you can tell it to just not do that again. And using the skill system, it does remember. Like, I don't know if it's foolproof yet, but honestly,
I've seen some problems with specifically like certain models, like telling them not to do something. It kind of skips over the not part and says, "Oh, great! Now I know that this is a thing that I could do." So like
you give it instruction if you're going to take a destructive action, always save a copy somewhere else,
right?
First or whatever. I don't know, whatever.
Marcus Burnett says, "Watch my Woo MCP set all my products to out of stock or run a sale on its own for 50% off all products." See, that is an opportunity as well. It's a threat, but it's also a possible opportunity where MCPs
what if you want it to is actually a better question, though, right? Like, what if it's monitoring your traffic fluctuations and there's a good reason to do a sale on a product, and you give it the power to test and experiment with that. Again, I'm not doing this yet, but I think you might want to let it put stuff on sale.
Yeah, but that's more like code running in the background rather than an MCP interaction. Like there are products that have personalization, like personalized WP, for example. You can say if a person comes back 5 times in a week and they have the letter Q in their name, put it on sale.
It's just you can have a webhook that triggers cloud action that uses all the various MCP stuff you've connected. Anyways, I don't want to get into just random thoughts and ideas, but
This is part of like the fun and challenge of having a conversation about AI right now, right? Like, can we just name that? That like it's hard to put boundaries on these things because we don't know what they can or can't do, and then that bleeds into like, well, then there's this other related thing that like, that's AI, but it's not MCP, but it sort of is on the back end, but not on the front end, right? Like, we don't have 10 years of experience interacting in this environment yet. So
there's something around the AI uncertainty problem that obviously none of us can agree on or have like a solid understanding of, and that's maybe the point. Maybe that is the answer. I do want to throw out one point on that, though, is you hand it off to some guy, you have just as much uncertainty is actually something.
Oh, definitely more uncertainty. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not as perfect as code, but also the uncertainty comes with all the magic, I guess, right?
So I want to ask one more question from Marcus. He asked about translation. He was saying, because we're using LLMs under the hood, does this open up a way to use natural language by any language to do things on your site? Are we making translation less necessary? Like, can I jump into a WordPress site and start asking it things in German, even though the site is in English? Will the system understand and do it?
So this gets back to like James's little parenthesis, right? Of like the magic is the chat context being context aware of you. Right. And so you are chatting to Claude or, name your agentic browser or whatever MCP client this ends up being, in the language that you use. As long as it has access to MCP servers, it can do those things. When it decides that you've told it to do that, it will hopefully ask you, but it will go and do that.
And it will translate the response, I imagine, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, if you prompt Claude with just a file without text, it gets mad at you because it doesn't know what language to answer you in. It actually will, in the thinking, it complains for a blank prompt. But actually, Zach, you shared a blog post like a year ago, maybe longer, about translating using AI. And we copied that in a bunch of our products way even back then. And it's incredible. It works. The only failure that I've seen in our stuff is sometimes there's like cultural meaning of translations that it's not quite picking up, where the word technically means that, but no one would ever use it. So we've definitely had a few people correct us on those. But I mean, we've translated everything into like 30 languages using LLMs, and 4 complaints that I know of, basically, in a year. So yes, it does translate very well. In fact, if your job is translation, I would be concerned. Might be top of the list to be worried, maybe.
Well, I think that's a wrap for our conversation today. We've covered a lot and we've covered nothing somehow. Like the topic is so huge that it's impossible to really cover in one episode, but hopefully we get to have you back, Nik. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow your work and learn more about what you're building?
Oh, yeah, sure. So SkyVerge over here, skyverge.com is the one to check out mainly. I'm on mostly X for Woo and WordPress stuff, but also NikMcLaughlin.com, which my name should be visible somewhere so you know how to spell that. It's out of date, but I try to at least have like links to my socials and stuff where you can actually find me through there.
You could have an MCP write automatic updates about what you're
why
doing.
not? Yeah. What am I doing? I'm sleeping on it.
And if you guys are all enjoying, you're supposed to do the learning thing or the one thing or
yeah.
Advice.
Okay, you're absolutely right. Ian, thank you for restoring our structure to the show. We wrap up every show with best advice, Nik. If somebody's thinking about building for MCPs, what's your one piece of advice that you wish somebody had told you before you had started?
Yeah. I'll pick one, I guess. Okay, so yeah, I have two, but my one is that the new like full stack mentality is both product and engineering, not front end and back end. So if you're on one of those or have historically come up in one of those camps, like now is the time to branch out, is to like reach across and see what you can build, see how you can better understand what you're building. Reach across that divide right now.
How about you, Ian?
For me, honestly, it's my main advice is that even if you're a tiny bit skeptical today, if you listen this far and you're still skeptical, that's weird, actually. But also, if you're a tiny bit skeptical, just start putting the things you're doing into Claude, even if you're only going to just go do it yourself anyways, just to watch what it can do. Because honestly, it's better at parts of my job than I am. And it's like, you got to try it. Just risk overdoing it. That's my advice.
Yeah, and I will tack on top of that and suggest that people use Claude to install MCPs on Claude. I use Claude Code. If you're running Claude Code, you could say, here's an MCP, integrate it. And it'll say, are you sure? And I would like, yeah, I'm sure. I give Claude Code dangerous permissions by default, which, whatever. It's kind of
get deleted categories every once in a while.
Exactly. But in the end, it's so much less frustrating. So I just have it add MCPs, and you can just chat with Claude to get it done for you and just say, do it for me, and it will. So if you're at all concerned about how technical it is, just chat with an AI and it will help you out.
And the skills builder skill in Claude is one of the most cool things in the world. All right. So if you're enjoying these shows, folks, again, hit subscribe literally now. All right. Thank you. It really helps more WordPress builders find the show. And, big thanks again to Freemius for supporting the show as well.
Yeah. And Marcus asked what my favorite swear word is. It's on a bingo card for today's conversation. My favorite swear word is frickin'. And for this episode, you can rewind a few episodes to find out what my actual favorite swear word is. Next week, join us because Matt Cromwell and I will be joined by Carl Alexander and Paul Carter, CEO of Built Fast, for a can't miss discussion where we talk about no excuses meeting modern user expectations in WordPress. That's going to be a good conversation as well. So we're going to dig into performance, onboarding. Oh my gosh, guess what helps with onboarding? AI helps with onboarding. And how WordPress products can rise to modern user standards. So make sure to tune in next week. Thanks all for joining us. Thanks again, Nik.
Yeah.
See you all next time on WP Product Talk.